Guys, everyone, hello. Welcome to this session, and this is a very special series for all of you who want to learn photography and editing part of it, the post processing. So we have planned 7 sessions for you guys, starting from very basics and then taking you through the entire journey of what to do, what not to do. We would be talking about cameras, lenses, we would be talking about Lightroom, Photoshop, all everything that you want to know probably in order to start your photography journey. Um, so today's session is the first one in this series wherein we would be exploring the basics of photography. I'll just tell you. So first, I'll just introduce you to Ashish. Ashish is a photographer, being doing this since a very long time. He is also he takes photography sessions, photography related classes for a lot of camera companies also, and uh, he he maintains a lot of WhatsApp groups also, wherein he keeps giving advice, tricks, and tips about photography. So, and lot of us look forward to him for learning new ways of photography. And I have personally attended his session also. That was my introduction to Lightroom, wherein that was the first step. I got to know about Lightroom. So yeah, in these sessions we would be learning a lot about photography. So Ashish, would be great if in the first session you would like to tell everyone what exactly you do, how the journey started, how you started clicking, when did you realize that this is actually that you want to do.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashish, and thank you Pankaj for such a nice introduction. And I'm a self-taught photographer, and I started with photography when I was in college in 2008, as far as I can remember. And I was a student in Banaras, and thankfully Banaras is a great place to start photography. So with a bunch of couple of friends, some travel photographers, and then some personal mentors, I was able to start my journey. And there was when I started my work in 2011 in Noida, there was a break for about roughly 2 years. And then in 2013, I started my photography again. So like I'm really grateful for everything that happened, and like I think it was God's plan that worked out in this way, and I'm very happy that it worked out. So I think what is the time? Can we start now? I think it's
Yeah,
already
we,
5.
yeah, we should start now.
Yeah, so in this session, what I wanted to do, because there are many live sessions going on these days, and I faced the challenge of how to make it unique, how to make it really useful for everyone who joins in. So I thought, okay, how about having a session for beginners, that how to do photography without any equipment, without a camera. And like this idea sounds crazy, photography without a camera or without any equipment. And but it's really possible. Let me tell you for a moment that you all have been doing photography for a very long time without a camera or without any equipment. Let me explain you how. So your eye has a lens, and it projects a picture on your retina, and your brain processes the image like a camera processor, and then it is stored in your memory. And if by God's grace you have good painting skills, then you can paint it and produce the picture. So there's photography in a nutshell, which you can do without any equipment.
Yeah.
Whenever you go to a new place, like for your vacation, go to mountains or beaches, you see the beautiful scenery and you say, wow, you are amazed by the beauty that exists in nature. And what you do, you take a mental picture. You try to explore different angles. You try to go to different side of the object that you're amazed by. And you try to analyze it from different angles. And that, in my opinion, is the crux of photography, that curiosity which drives you around. And by instinct, by intuition, you know what is the best angle, and you know what looks good and what doesn't look good. But when it comes to practicing it with an equipment, when it comes to practicing it with a purpose, that you want to create a picture that you want to share with multiple people and you want them to like it, you want to tell a story. When it becomes a purpose-driven exercise, then you need to put more thought into it. And then you need to learn what works and what doesn't work so that you can make it work every time. So that's what this session is going to be about in core of it. I want you to think about what happens before you press the shutter button. Because there's a lot of tutorials available, how to press the shutter, how to do the camera settings, which of course we'll be looking at in later sessions. But this session is about what happens before you press the camera shutter. All right, so is everybody getting excited about it? I think
Okay, so
you find it useful.
I mean, just take everyone through what all we are going to cover in this session. So guys,
Hi,
okay,
Pankaj. I think
yeah,
let's just go with the flow because
sure,
unnecessary people
sure,
will be looking forward to the next topic.
sure,
So that acts as a distraction, so I don't want to do that,
sure.
if that's okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
sure.
So how we'll go ahead. So this is the idea that the photography without any equipment, which I just talked about, and it basically means you being there with yourself and analyzing your surrounding and finding out what's beautiful, what attracts you, and or what is out of the what is unusual, and then you take a mental picture of it. Moving on to the next part of this session is what motivates you to get into photography. Now I know everybody has their reasons. Some people have different reasons and some people have different reasons, of course. So what I'm going to do, this is exercise. Can I request everybody to get a pen and paper? Did we already tell that to people?
No. So I didn't tell it, but
Okay,
this
no
session would
problem.
be available, so they can always
Yeah.
go back and rewatch it.
Okay, that's good to know. So if you have a pen and paper right now, go grab it quickly. If not, it's okay. Just listen to it and you can do it later. What I'm going to do, I'm going to read some statements, all right? And there will be a keyword attached with each statement. And you need to ask yourself if this statement sounds like you. If you can resonate with that statement, write the keyword. If you don't resonate with it or if the idea doesn't sound like you, then don't worry about it. But if it does, then please note down the keyword that seems like you. All right? So I'll give you a moment to get pen and paper. All right, let's begin. So I'm going to read few statements and you need to, if it resonates with you, you can write down the keyword. I'll also say the keyword at the end of the sentence. So this is answer to what is your motivation to get into photography? So number one, I want to impress people or somebody in particular. Keyword is impress. If this is something that resonates with you, please write your keyword impress. Next statement, I am lonely and I want to make friends. The keyword is make friends. The next one is photography gives me pure joy. Right, joy, happiness is the keyword. The next statement is, when I have my camera in my hand, I feel more confident and bolder. Keyword is confidence. The next statement is, I want to have followers like influencers on the social media. The keyword is followers or popularity. The next statement is, I want to tell visual stories through photography. The keyword is visual stories. Next statement is, I want to make money from photography. The keyword is money. The next statement is, I can express myself through photography. The keyword is express or creative outlet. The next statement is, I want to become a famous photographer. The keyword is famous. Next statement is, I want to capture memories with my friends and family. And the keyword is memories. So I hope you guys must have found at least one or two that resonates with you and that sounds like you. And if that's your
Yeah.
motivation, we're not going to discuss it right now. We will leave it for next few minutes. We'll proceed to the next section, but I hope you have written or at least recognized which of the statements resonates with you. So let's move on to the next section, next section of this session. So in photography, we all get attracted to one kind of photography or another kind of photography. There are two major kinds. One is directorial approach and another is natural approach. Now let me tell you what these two approaches mean. In directorial approach, the photographer has freedom to direct the subject. He has partial or full control over the lighting and surrounding, and the shots can be repeated until the perfection is achieved. So this kind of photography is not about the moment, not about capturing the moment, but it's about capturing perfection. You usually do it for a client where client wants a perfect certain kind of photograph. So you have all the control over different elements, the subject, the background, the props, the lighting, everything is under your control.
Like fashion photography.
And it's like, fashion photography, yeah, exactly, like you said. Product photography is also another example.
Right.
That's
Food
very good.
photography.
Food photography is also, yes, very good example of this kind, a directorial approach. The another approach is natural. In this kind of approach, photographer does not have much control over the subject. The photographer cannot ask the subject to move here or there.
Right.
Photographer cannot change the lighting. It is how it is. And the purpose of this kind of photography is to show the subject how it is. Now, not how you would like it to be.
Okay.
The examples of this kind of photography are photojournalism, candid portraits, or street photography. All these are
Nature.
examples in which you want to show things how they are.
Like nature, landscape photography.
Landscape photography is also, actually I noted that in my slides. So yeah, landscape is also one of those kinds where it's natural. It's all about how things are and you want to showcase them the way it is. So this was two approaches to photography. There are two kinds of
Yeah, well,
approaches.
Rakesh is saying, hello, Sarji.
Hello. So there are two kinds of approaches when it comes to photography, and we just talked about one is directorial, one is natural. Now what I would like you to do, you want to sit down and think in your head which kind of photography appeals to you more. What do you think suits your requirement better, or what does you suit better to the requirement? So it's like a two-way street. You have to be up to the mark to what the client demands, or what kind of photography appeals to you the best. So it's kind of have to be a balance. So you need to see which way you incline, because both the approaches require very different kind of personalities, very different kind of equipment, and very different kind of time and skills investment. So you need to think which way you want to go. All right, so next part of this session is about judgment. When we go out, we need to see what is the subject and be able to recognize what is the subject. And I don't know, in one of the workshop I mentioned this, that as a photographer, we borrow from the surroundings. We put little bit of ourselves and then make a picture. So a photograph is always little bit of the personality of the photographer and whatever was present in the surrounding. So now some people look for extraordinary subjects, while other people find beauty in mundane subjects, which are everyday objects, everyday life. So there are two kinds of approaches in photography, two kinds how people go about finding the subject. Some look for extraordinary subjects. For example, if you want to take great landscape pictures, you may travel to a far-off land, maybe a different country, to find a specific kind of landscape. But on the other hand, some other photographer who is into capturing daily life or street life may just go to Delhi and capture daily life, which is really mundane for people who go through, but it can be really special for those who look at the picture. So there are two approaches to select the subject. When we are talking about this, something very special I just remembered. In Australia, Canon company operates a place called The Lab, and they do experiments related to photography. A few years
Okay.
ago, what they did a very interesting experiment. I really loved the results out of it. They did an experiment which was called decoy, and what they did, they brought a subject and they hired 6 really famous, renowned photographers, and they
Okay.
told them each a different story about the subject. To some,
Okay.
they told he's a alcoholic, recovering alcoholic. To some, they told he was an inmate just out of the prison. To one, they told that he's a self-made millionaire. To others, they told different stories about the subject. And the results that came out were surprising to even the photographers themselves. They
Okay.
couldn't believe that same person was captured so differently by each photographer, because they had this preconceived notion that, oh, he's an inmate, so I need to have this kind of lighting, I need to shoot from this kind of angle, I need to have this kind of background.
Right.
6 photographers who shot the same subject one after the other in the same location, same studio, captured the personality completely differently based on what they thought who he is.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
So, yeah, this experiment was called decoy. If you want to look at it, you can search on Google later and look at it. It's available on the internet. And what this told me is that photography is not only about the subject. Since we are on how to select subject, it's not only about the subject. A lot of it depends on you as an individual, your past experiences. What is your outward towards life? How do you look at life in general? How do you look at people? So your perspective matters, your perceptions matter, and your beliefs and ideas, all that you put into a photograph when you capture something.
Right.
So all these things matter. Now, when we are going around from one place to another place, we are looking around in different directions. Our brain has a shortcut. We mentally try to use a shortcut, which is called selective attention, which means
Yeah.
if you're thinking about something, you're only looking for that, and in the process,
Absolutely.
you will ignore many other things.
Right.
There's a very good experiment. If you ever attended my real workshop, we did this. There's an experiment. It's called Gorilla Express, walking gorilla. So you can Google it and do it yourself. And I can't tell you what exactly happens, otherwise it will spoil the fun out of it. But the information that comes out of the experiment is when we are going out or looking for something, we are only looking for that specific thing which is already in our mind.
Right.
So this is limitation in subject selection, because it can make us miss out many interesting subjects that may be out there. Because whenever you are in a new place or in front of your subject, there are 1,000 different frames that you can make. You can shoot from this angle or that angle. You can
Right.
capture one perspective or another perspective. You can capture the side profile of a subject or the front face or just the back of somebody's head, and it will all convey different things. So there are different frames. And then there's your own perspective, your own perception about the subject.
But
So,
Ashish, here I would want to ask something. Like,
yeah.
when all of us who are live and who are watching this, we are active on Instagram, and we keep scrolling through photographs all through the day probably, and spend a lot of time consuming this content. So there is a certain pre-impression, pre-notion in our mind about a specific kind of photograph. Let's say I would want to click a river. So as I have seen so many pictures about a river, probably a particular spot, so I inside my head subconsciously I would like to replicate that, not even knowing that this is coming from my memory of some Instagram picture. So
Yeah.
how to empty that preconceived or pre-decided frame that I have inside my mind, and just go with the flow and explore what are the other ways that I can frame this shot. For example, there are these the suicide point photographs wherein we see people
Okay.
standing on their cars or leaning forward, something of the sort. So we keep seeing similar kind of photos. There is very little, very minimum variation, and whatever variation comes, it is because of a change in natural light rather than a man-made or a photographer-made effort. So how to overcome this roadblock, your mental roadblock in terms of framing the content?
Okay, that's a very good question, and actually this is covered in the topics that I have within this session. So we will get to that, and
Okay,
we will deal with it, but in a slightly different manner.
okay,
So I was talking about um, how when you spot a subject, like you are prone to miss out many of the things that are out there when you're looking
right,
for different objects, different subject. So there's a very interesting exercise that you can do. It's as children, when we were children, we all must have played that game where it's called Spot the Difference. So there are two pictures side by side, very identical, but there are some differences. So
right,
that is
right,
actually a mental exercise, and I would recommend you to do that on daily basis if possible. But if not, then at least once or twice in a week, if you're on commute, if you're free and don't have time, just do that game. There are several websites that have it by difficulty level, how difficult it is to spot the differences.
right.
And those will really, really enhance your ability to spot the details in your surroundings. And
Okay,
it will take about a month before it starts really affecting your ability to spot the differences. So you need to do it. So two things matter in this exercise. One is consistency. If you choose to do every alternate day, then you must do every alternate day.
right.
And the consistency and regularity. So these two things are really important. So if you choose to do every alternate day, then definitely do every alternate day and do it for at least a month. So after a month, you'll be able to see the results that you are able to spot things more easily. You are more aware about your surroundings, and you are very easily able to spot very minute details that other people will often miss. There's
That's
whole
interesting.
science and psychology behind it, but I won't get into that. But just do this game. It's called Spot the Difference. And all of us must have done that as when we were children.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very
We have done that. Yeah.
simple. And it's also a very good exercise for the brain. Um, so now coming to what the question that you asked just before this, there are two ways to see. One is what is, and the other way, what could be. So it's one way of seeing is in terms of what actually exists, it's hard facts. So if there's a tree, it's green in color, it has fluffy leaves, or it's withered. So there are factual things about the tree. Excuse me. And then there's a possibility, which means what could be. So it's a tree that you're seeing, but the sky is blank, it's gray, because it's in the middle of the afternoon, so it's gray. So what could be, you can wait for the evening when the sun sets and the sky will be full of colors, or you can come another day and wait for the clouds to be there in the background. So you wait for the background to be filled, and that way you look for potential, what is the possibility that can be there. So both these skills are important. You have to be able to see what is actually there.
Okay.
And then you have to develop an ability to see what could be, what is possible. So now I will tell you, as per the personality science or the research in different personality types, there are some people who find it easier to find out what are the actual facts, what actually exists there. So they are very comfortable seeing what is, but they are not very comfortable seeing what is the possible, what could be. On the other hand, the other kind of people find it very easy to see the possibilities, but they're not able to see what actually is. So those who like to see possibility, they keep daydreaming. They keep sitting and thinking, oh, I want to click a photograph of an aeroplane. And they keep thinking about it, keep thinking about different variations of an aeroplane. A person looking out of the window from the aeroplane, aeroplane flying, aeroplane taking off, making star trails or making like traffic trails. You can make it with an airplane too. So you can keep imagining different scenarios, but you will never get off your chair if you're only good with possibilities. So you also need to be able to look at the hard facts. So you need to strike a balance. If you're one kind of person, try to develop the other kind of skills. All right? Now I'll give you an example. There's this photographer, Alan McFadyen. He's a Scottish photographer. He had a vision to take a picture of a kingfisher diving into the water and into his reflection. So it's a very famous photograph. You must have seen it, I'm sure. So he spent 6 years, about 4,200 hours, and 7,20,000 shots to find that one perfect shot in which the kingfisher dives into its reflection in the water, and he captured that perfect moment. So imagine the conviction that the photographer had. He went there again and again for 6 years. He spent 4,200 hours in photography, in trying to photograph this moment, and he took more than 720,000 shots in order to get this one perfect shot. So that was the conviction. And why I'm giving this example, because if you want to create a masterpiece, if you want to create something like which is remembered, you will have to know what you're looking for. You'll have to have a vision, and then a conviction that the vision is valuable enough that you spend time and energy and money to be able to do that. Now, that brings us to the end of the previous section, which was about how to see or spot a subject. And now we are going into explore all genres. What genre is more suitable for you and what genre is best for you? We will be talking more about genres in our sessions to come, so I won't spend a lot of time in this session here. But I'll give you one small method how to find out what is the genre that is closest to your heart. Are you guys ready? I hope you are, because I am. So,
Me too.
yeah, so if somebody asks a question, please keep a note of it, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a Q&A session at the end, so you guys can keep your questions with you and ask us in your messages, and then Pankaj will ask the question. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
So genres is a very interesting concept. When we are just getting into photography, we are attracted by different things. And not to mention, because of social media and all the internet and the connectivity that we have the access to the best photographs in the world.
Yeah.
Some of the top photographers, and we can see their work on the click of a button. So we have access to the best content immediately, while we may be just beginning, and we may not realize that it was a journey of 10 to 15 years for that photographer to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what it calls for a certain humility in us. It calls for having a humility as a photographer, that you are beginning, you are learning, and be open to learn. Because the moment you start thinking like, oh, I know everything, the learning stops. The moment you become rigid and are not humble, you start thinking that I know everything and there's no scope for learning. The glass becomes full. But as long as you think like, oh, I want to learn from everything as much as possible. I want to learn from this person, from that person. I want to watch YouTube videos. I want to read books. I want to maybe join a photography classes or something. As long as that flame is alive, you are learning and you're progressing. And photography is that field where the learning curve is kind of flat in the beginning, and that kind of shoots off towards after 20 to 25 years. Then you gain popularity, and then you become really famous. But in the beginning years, 10 to 15 years, the curve is almost flat, and you'll see it's not working. And initial 5 or 6 years is when most of the photographers quit.
Yeah.
They get into photography, but after 5-10 years, they think like, it's not working, let me quit. And that's what you have to fight against. You have to have a conviction that no, I can do something. I have stories to tell people. I have a unique perspective that I can create pictures which no one else has created.
Right.
So that has to be there. And you need to find that one particular spark in you that really lights up your eyes, that is really close to you. So I'm going to talk about how to find your genre, and it's a small method, and this is, I think, the last topic in today's session. So you can start by making a folder on your computer and name it My Favorite Pictures. Download a list from the internet to find a list of genres in photography. I found one which is called 21 Types of Photography You Should Know. That's what it's called, 21 Types of Photography You Should Know. And the list is pretty good. But you can look for other lists of genres. There are about 16 to 20 prominent genres. And then there's subdivisions of those.
Right.
So find a list like that. And then what you do, you go to different places on the internet and find good photographs pertaining to each genre. And then save some of your favorite ones in your local folder, which is named as My Favorite Pictures. Now do this exercise on a regular basis. I mean, I don't mean every day, but if you can do every day, that's great. There's nothing better than that. But even if you do that every week, you sit for 2 hours, look for pictures of specific genre, and then download your favorite pictures from that particular genre. Now there are Facebook groups for each genre, there are Flickr groups for each genre, and there are, I think, some hashtags on Instagram too that you can check out. So
Right.
keep a record of your favorite pictures from each individual genre, and then do this practice till the time you have 30 to 40 images pertaining to each genre in your folder, which is named My Favorite Pictures. Now, while you are doing this, you're doing this on a daily basis or alternate days basis or maybe weekly basis, then sit down every week, go through those pictures on full screen, and go next and next and next, and notice which pictures hold your attention, which pictures make you pause for a moment and look at that picture longer. Now what you need to do, you need to copy that picture, put in a different folder, and you need to name that folder My Genre. All right?
Okay.
So if whatever pictures hold your attention, whatever pictures make you pause and look at that picture longer, copy that picture, put it in a separate folder, and name that folder My Genre. Okay? Also go back to your original folder of My Favorite Pictures and keep deleting the pictures that don't hold your attention or don't appeal to you at all. It may have looked interesting in the beginning when you saw it on the internet, but now when you look at it again and again, it doesn't appeal to you, it doesn't hold your attention, so you need to delete those pictures. While you're doing this, putting pictures in My Genre folder, you need to continue the original practice of going to different groups, finding the good picture of that particular genre, different genres, and putting in your My Favorite Picture. So this will keep happening. And once you do this process for like 3 to 4 months, you will have...
Sorry, kind of got disconnected, I guess. Yeah.
It was only for a moment, so nothing to worry. Okay. So when you have done this for 3 to 4 months, and you look at your genre, My Genre folder, you will realize that there are way more pictures pertaining to one particular genre than other genres.
Right.
And those are the genres that really appeal to you. So it will be a process of about 3 to 4 months. You spend 3 to 4 months, and then you'll know what genre of photography is closest to your heart. And then you can buy equipment pertaining to that genre. Then you can prepare your plans how to progress in that genre. And that will really help you progress faster compared to going here and there and exploring different places without knowing what you're looking for. That is really that were my 2 cents on this, like how to go about photography in the beginning before you press the shutter, before you get the camera in your hand, point it to a subject, and then take the picture. So that was all about today. And We will have, as Pankaj explained earlier, this session is part of a 7 series session. So this was the first in the series of 7,
Yeah.
and we will be covering manual settings in next session, which will be about ISO, shutter speed, aperture, basically exposure triangle. So if you've
Right.
been clicking on automatic mode so far, we will introduce you
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
manual mode, and you will, I hope you
Absolutely.
will love and enjoy it. So we are open to questions now. Pankaj, please go ahead with any questions that you or any of our guests may have.
I'll just check if anyone has asked something while we were doing the session. I'll just check for that. Uh, Guys, if you have any question, please shoot it. Else you can message me or Ashish. We will take that up in next session. I have questions probably that would be relevant for everyone.
Sure.
Okay, so there is another school of thought when we talk about deciding the genre. So when we actually start going out, when we start framing the subject, um, and we keep clicking over a period of time, then we have a kind of a clarity as to what excites me. Because I'll tell you my case. So when I started, I tried doing everything. I used and that inspiration to start photography came from looking at beautiful pics of others. So I started doing it. I did landscape, nature, wildlife. I did street, bird, everything.
Yeah.
I tried architecture also. Uh, but then eventually the area started getting smaller, and I started drifting towards few genres. So what's the right approach? I mean, uh, should we actually start experimenting and then decide? And we can just do it with our phone camera, even before investing in some equipment in a separate camera. The phone cameras are good enough these days. So do you suggest that that's also a good idea? I guess someone has written something. Uh, then there is another question. Photo
So let
booth
me answer
by
this
Manoj has
question.
asked. Yeah. Okay. I'll just note it. So, what if we feel that we like more than one or two type of photography, like food and travel, both or portrait also? Okay. So, got it. Yeah. We'll take this up.
Yes, so let me answer your question first, and then I'll answer the question asked by the gentleman.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you one question. Like when you were looking at pictures on the Instagram or wherever you were getting your inspiration from, and then you wanted to do that kind of photography, and then the field got narrowed to something particular, and you realize this is what excites you. My question to you is, were you seeking pictures out, or the pictures were being presented to you by a feed? Like, because Instagram has its algorithm, it keeps feeding you the particular kind of pictures. Or were you specifically searching or looking for a particular kind of pictures?
I was mostly going by the feed that was being thrown at me. But then, when I started looking for ideas as to creative ideas, what can I do while I'm still inside my home? Ideas on street photography. Let's say I was exploring Mumbai, so I searched for ideas about street photography. When I went to some nature place, I mean Leh Ladakh or Spiti or anywhere, so I look for ideas in terms of nature photography or landscape photography. So it depends upon what I am planning to do, where I'm planning to go, and accordingly seeking inspirations. But then also the area started getting narrower, and I eventually realized that there are few genres that are just not for me. Probably that is because of personality also, like he quoted, and we had a
No,
discussion
that's nothing.
about that.
Okay, now I'll come to the answer. I'll try to answer your question. Um, so you remember this session is about before you press the shutter.
Yeah.
So what you explained is after you press the shutter.
Right. Right. Right.
So this was part of finding your genre before you
Before
actually
you.
get out with a machine, with a camera in your hand.
Right.
So
Okay.
the session, whatever I've told today, is before you actually press the shutter, before you actually go out with the camera.
Right.
It will give you a head start, because this is for beginners. It's not for
Right.
those who are already clicking for several years. So if you're already
Right.
taking pictures, then the approach will be a mix. So before you
Right.
start, this is what you do. This is the homework. This is the groundwork.
Right.
But once you hold your
True.
camera, then the experiment begins.
True. True.
And
True.
then more things come out of that experiment, like what they did with the 6 photographers. An interesting
Right.
thing came out of that experiment.
Absolutely.
So this is only exercise before you hold the camera and go out in the field. And of
Right.
course, after you do the practical, you do the experimentation with different genres, you'll find that your comfort zone is in particular one field. And more
Right.
often than not, it will match with the result in the fold, is the theoretical exercise and the practical exercise. More often than not, the results would match. What happens when we are presented with series of pictures on social media, it's presenting us what is popular these days. It's not presenting what I as an individual would like to see. It's presenting what is popular. So nowadays you will see a lot of portrait pictures of women with really retouched skin, and that's a color adjusted, tonal adjusted background, where it's bluish and reddish and warmish kind of light. There's
Right.
cool colors and warm colors mixture in the background, and the warm light on the women's face. So this is one kind of pictures which are really becoming popular on Instagram or other photography kind of platforms. And more portrait photographers want to make that kind of photographs because they are constantly presented with that kind of photographs. And that trend has initiated from Russia. So there are some Russian photo editors who have that style of editing, and they spread it in the whole world. So now more and more people are getting into that. So it's about trends. Social media presents you with a trend, and then you think like, oh, I like it, because you see it again and again and again and again. You start to think that, oh, I really like this kind of pictures. And then when you try to make that picture, you realize, no, this is not as much fun as I thought it would be. So that's what happens with the social media. But what I said, you actively look out for pictures from each different genre. So you're seeking pictures from the cloud or pool of images, instead of somebody presenting you the pictures with what they think is popular. So there's a difference in these two things. And then this is a theoretical side, and once you start clicking with your camera, that will be the practical side, and then you'll realize what is your genre. I hope that I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in fact, I
So
forgot
what-
that this is step by step thing that we are doing. This is for beginners. Okay, so let's take the next question that was asked. I'll tell you. I'll repeat that. What if we feel that we like more than one or two types of photography, like food and travel, both, or portraits too? I mean, liking multiple types of genre, being comfortable with multiple types of genre. So, what's your take on that?
So that is perfectly possible, but again, the answer will depend on what is your end goal. Like we talked about motives in the beginning, and if this gentleman who has asked this question, I'll be really interested to know what was his keyword that motivates him. It will be really interesting to know. It is very much possible that you may be interested in more than one genres. And then once you get on to this journey of photography, and you're down the line 10 to 15 years later, you'll
Manoj has
realize
said
that
joy.
joy. Okay. All right, good. That's very good. So 10 or 15 years down the line, when you become established in the field of photography and people approach you for the assignments and you really you're like commercial photographer, you really take pictures on a massive scale. So you will find that there's one genre which is your forte, which becomes your niche. And then others are secondary. So there will be a hierarchy that will develop out of experience. There will be one genre which will be your expertise, which will be your forte, and then others will be just below it. So you can get very good at different genres, but there'll be one where you will be really creative, innovative, and something that appeals to people. You'll be able to create pictures in that particular genre. And it's also very helpful if you pick a genre. The sooner you pick a genre, there will be more room and time to develop as a photographer in that genre. And my friends, many people go by trying to click a photograph that they saw on somewhere, on some media.
Right.
And this is not a good approach. I'll tell you why. Because even I, as a mentor, when I do workshops, I don't try to repeat my content. Because those who came to the first workshop, I expect them to attend my every other workshop, whether it's digital, through live, or there. And if they come to my next workshop, they don't need to feel like, oh, why did we come again? Because this guy talks about the same thing again and again. So if there's a photograph that somebody has already made and you want to create the same picture again, what is new that you're doing? You're simply copying something or trying to recreate something that has already existed before. If you want to be original, I want you to focus on creating something that is truly your own. Creating a style which represents you as a photographer, which is something different and unique about you.
Right.
And that's what you need to focus on. So if different genres attract you, very good, try them out. Try each one of them. But then focus on finding out which one is closest to your heart and which one appeals to you the most. Yep. That's my answer. I think one more gentleman asked a question.
Yeah. How can we make a signature style of photography? Yep. That's it.
So I think I answered the question, how can we make a signature style of photography? So that is already answered. But yes, in short, I'll repeat the answer specifically to that question, that the sooner you pick a genre, the more time you will have to invest in learning and improving in that genre and finding your unique signature style. Because see, your unique signature style is very personal and particular and internal to you. Another teacher or mentor or school cannot teach you what is your specific signature style. That you have to find out on your own. It's a journey and it will take some time. But sooner you start trying to find it, the better it will be.
Right. Yeah. And that would come once you kind of decide upon a genre, start practicing day by day, every single day. It's an ongoing process. Every day you add on bit by bit, and then you kind of make the entire picture that is called your specific style. And the fun is when people start copying your style. That's the fun. Instead of you taking inspiration from someone and then trying to copy it. So that's the thing. Do we have any other questions? Let's check. Manoj is thank you so much for one of the most informative sessions.
Oh, thank you.
Any tips for landscape photography? We will actually cover that in subsequent sessions. So we would be going deeper into genres and lot of things, and this we would be covering. So Manoj, please join the sessions. We'll be having sessions every day at 5 for next 7 days. Sunday we would not be doing a session, but we have 7 sessions lined up. So please join in. Another question, someone shoots street and don't get accepted on SNS over portrait photos. How to keep up? I
I didn't
didn't get
understand the question.
Yeah, yeah. I also didn't get it. Someone shoots street and don't get accepted on SNS over portrait photos. If you could explain us a bit what you want to ask. We didn't get the question.
Yeah. Pankaj, I would quickly like to go back to those different statements that I made and just sum it up
Yeah,
because I left it in
yeah,
the open and we have
right.
time. We still have time. Oh no, we don't have time. We exceeded. But I'll just take a very little bit time.
Yeah,
So there were, so these questions were framed, these statements were framed based on an understanding that different motivations that motivate people. And there's
right,
some, if you got those ones, then you will go far in photography. Like you will really pursue it longer and stick longer than 5 years. Even if you don't get much success in the beginning 5 years, you will still stick with it. And if you got
right,
your motivation in one of those areas, one of those statements, then you are good. But if not, then you can definitely reanalyze your motives for being into photography. So one is joy and happiness. If photography gives you pure joy and happiness, then definitely it is something that you will go long way. Uh, there was another, I want to tell visual stories through photography. So if this was one of your motive, that's really good sign. And there's one, I can express myself through photography. So as an expression, as a creative outlet, if that is photography to you, then that's also a very good sign. Everything else is kind of, if you have some of the other keywords, then that means you're using photography as a stepping stone to something else.
do something else. Yeah,
So photography is a stepping stone to go somewhere else. So that's
right,
why it's not the primary objective. And then
right,
you can still achieve certain level of success by pursuing that path. But I don't see it going like very far until your motive is in the right place. So that is very important to find out what really drives you towards camera and photography. What is your internal motivation? So that's the sum of it. And yeah, we can
yeah,
conclude the
we
session.
get it. So Instagram is full of portrait photos and people love those. In that chaos, how a street photographer can keep up? SNS is social network site like Insta and FB. So basically, what I got is that in this world full of portrait photography, what are the chances for a street photographer? Uh, is that if that's what you mean to say? So Ashish,
Um, so I'm specifically referring to this particular person and
right,
talking to other people as well. I am especially trying to answer your question. It's a misconception. Instagram is not full of portrait photos. The reason why you see so many portrait photos on your feed is because you like a lot of those photos. And Instagram algorithm is designed in such a way
exactly,
to show you more content that you like.
right,
So as you're scrolling, if you stop for a certain duration on one particular picture, Instagram thinks that you like this kind of content. If you
right,
like or comment on particular photo, Instagram thinks that this is the kind of content that you like. It tries to show you more and more. And then you begin to feel that this is the kind of content available on Instagram.
right,
I would advise you to unfollow the hashtags or different groups or people that you're following who are producing those portrait photos and follow different kind of Insta hashtags or groups or people, and then you will see your feed to be very different. And I've
right,
done this experiment. It really works. So
yeah,
if I follow a lot of street photographers like Magnum Photos or different Ansel Adam maybe for landscape or this kind of like big shot names and their groups, and even if the photographer is no longer alive, there are groups in his honor and their hashtags. If you follow some of those, your feed will be completely different. Now, even if Instagram is full of, or social networks are full of this kind of portrait photos, what does it mean to you as a photographer? are you existing as a photographer for the sake of social media network? What
Right.
is your purpose or relationship with social media? Why are you so concerned about what social media is full of? Is
Yep.
your main purpose is to gain followers? Because then you're not concerned about photography, you're concerned about getting popular and gaining followers. So that is a different motive altogether.
Yeah.
All right. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. We
You
got
can
another
pursue the
one.
kind of genre that you want. Yeah,
Yeah. We got another one on a beginner level. What is bokeh?
that will be
So
covered in the later
covered
sessions.
later on. Yeah. And based on the answers that you gave, he's asking. So Insta is manipulative. In that case, I would not say that's the case, because it is actually showing what you want to see. So it's not manipulating you, it is showing you based on your search results, it is showing you what it thinks that you might be interested in. So it is exactly like Google Ads. When we go to one website, we kind of see some type of ads,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that is based on our behavior on internet. So let's say if you go to a website, you go through the content of the website, and let's say some shopping, e-shopping, e-commerce website. So if you go there, you just explore through the content, through the product range, and you just drop out. So the moment you'll start going to other websites and there is this ad space banner on those websites, you will see the ad of that particular website where you went and didn't shop. If that website is running that retargeting campaign, so you'll be surprised. Oh, I just went there. I scrolled through the website and now I see their ad everywhere. Probably on Facebook, on Google, on different websites, even on Instagram, because they now get the information that you are interested in this thing. So they are not manipulating.
Yeah. Thank you, Pankaj, for adding that. Yeah, it's really true.
Most welcome. Yeah, Manoj, that's artificial intelligence kind. Yeah. Great. That was such an interesting and insightful session, Ashish. And guys, tomorrow 5 we will be back with another very insightful and exciting session wherein we would be talking about the three pillars of photography. Your the creative triangle that we talk about, how to actually go about your ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, factors related to that. So please be there at 5 o'clock. And thanks, Ashish. Thank you so much.
It
It
was
was a
my
wonderful
pleasure with
session.
you guys. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.